started working on the finish of the guitar, what I've done so far is to put a coat of shellac on the soundboard, and then I put a wash coat of shellac on the back and the sides. And the difference between the regular shellac and a wash coat is it's just thinned out with denatured alcohol. And if you're not really familiar with shellac and using a wash coat, I'll explain the difference between those. But this is where I'm at right now. My next step here will be to put a pore filler on the sides and the back. The sides and the back are made of walnut, so walnut's kind of an open pored wood, so I'm going to put a filler in that to fill in the pores before I put the finish on. What I'll do in this video is cover the filler that I'm going to use, talk about the shellac that I put on already, and then also what I'm going to use for the final finish for the guitar. This is the shellac that I used on the guitar, and it's Zinsler Bullseye Seal Coat. And Zinsler makes a couple different kinds of shellac. They make actually a shellac, and they make this seal coat. And the difference between their shellac and seal coat is that seal coat is wax free. You'll see right here, 100% wax free shellac. Their actual shellac is not wax free. So I want to use this seal coat because I don't want any wax in the shellac that could possibly interfere with the final finish. And shellac comes in, if you buy shellac in the dry form, it comes in flakes, and then you can dilute it out to the cut that you want. From what I can find out about seal coat, it is about a 2-pound cut. For a wash coat, I wanted a 1-pound cut. So for the wash coat on the walnut of the guitar, I just took 1/2 seal coat and 1/2 denatured alcohol and diluted the shellac out, and that's what I used for the walnut sides and back. For the guitar top, the soundboard, I just used straight seal coat, which is a 2-pound cut. You can see in the previous video that the top looked a little bit shinier than the sides, and that's okay because when I get the final finish on, it won't matter. The reason that I used a wash coat on the sides and back and a full coat of shellac on the top is because I'm going to do a pore filler on the sides and back. I wanted to protect the top from that pore filler. I'll try my best not to get any on the top, but I wanted a full coat of shellac on the top just to protect it from that pore filler. I put the wash coat on the sides because the pore filler that I'm going to use is going to be tinted with a dye, and I didn't really want to change the color of the walnut. I didn't want to dye the walnut, so this wash coat will help maintain the original color of the walnut. I just want to fill the pores in the walnut with the filler, with the dyed filler, but I don't want to change the actual color of the wood. So that's why I put the wash coat on. And I wanted to talk a little bit about pore fillers. There's different fillers that you can use. You can buy commercially available fillers, and there's water-based fillers, there's oil-based fillers. A lot of luthiers will use pumice and shellac as a pore filler. But something that I ran across on the internet that was an option that was promoted by a well-known luthier was to use drywall compound as a filler. And it sounds kind of crazy, but most fillers use some kind of inert material such as the pumice or other minerals that are suspended in either oil or water, which is essentially what drywall compound is. It's gypsum with a binder and water. So this would be somewhat comparable to a water-based pore filler. And there were a couple of arguments against using this out on the internet. One was that joint compound tends to shrink, and if you've ever worked with joint compound on drywall, you'll know that when you fill a hole or depression, it does shrink somewhat. But if you put 2 or 3 applications on, you gradually fill those in. And also the pores that you're working with are, they're very, very small. They're not much depth to them, so the shrinkage in those pores should be pretty minimal. So I think if I put probably 2 applications of the compound on the guitar, that should fill in the pores. The other argument against using it was that a lot of the commercial pore fillers have a lot smaller particle size of the actual whatever the mineral is in it that you're using as the filler than this joint compound. The joint compound has larger gypsum particles than what a commercially available pore filler might have. And I don't know about that, but at any rate, I'm going to try that. And of course, this joint compound's gray, so I'm going to tint it, and I just happen to have this brown trans tint dye that I'll put in the joint compound to dye it. And while I'm talking about the finishes, for the final finish, believe it or not, I'm going to use this True Oil gunstock finish. And there's a lot of instrument builders out there that do use True Oil. And the reasons I'm using this is it's very easy to apply, it's very forgiving. You get a good built-up finish with it, and there's a lot of luthiers out there that are using True Oil, and it's a polymerized linseed oil with other oils added to it, so it's it's kind of like tung oil somewhat, but not exactly. But I wasn't sure about it, so I did a test piece of walnut. This is the same walnut that the guitar is built out of. I'm going to show you. I filled the pores with the drywall compound, and I put several coats of True Oil on it, and that's the finish that I came up with. So you can see I'm trying to get some light reflecting off that. That came out really nice. So I'm really happy with that finish. It was very easy to apply, and you can see this isn't sanded down as well as my guitar might be, but if my guitar comes out as well as this test piece did, I'll be happy with that. And this was I just quickly sanded it with some 320. I think I put 1 or 2 coats of the drywall compound pore filler in it, and then it probably has maybe somewhere between 4 to 6 applications of True Oil on it. And I found I could easily do 2 applications of True Oil a day, so I did one in the morning, then did another one in the afternoon, and then did that each day. I think I put 4 coats on, and then I used some steel wool to quickly kind of smooth it out, and then put 1 more coat of True Oil on after that, and that's the finish that I got. That looks, actually I was amazed with the finish. I used a paper towel to wipe this on. It just wipes right on. It's pretty amazing to me. So that's what I plan to do with the guitar. So next, I need to mix up some pore filler with some dye and apply it to the guitar. So I've mixed up my drywall compound. I'm going to put a little bit into a plastic cup. enough in here that'll do hopefully a couple applications on the guitar. If not, I can mix up a little bit more. That should do it. I stopped to put on some vinyl gloves because if you've ever worked with this Transtent dye, it is very concentrated. If you get it on your skin, it will really stain it up. See right there, when I pulled the cap off, I got stuff all over the place. So I'll mix this in. Add a little bit more. This tint that I happen to have is a golden brown. I would like to have a little bit darker color, but I'm working with what I got. So there we go. Start here on the back. Plop some of this on there. Start rubbing it in. Don't want to leave too much on here because the more you leave on, the more you got to sand off. I don't want to wipe it right out of the pores either. So I'll be able to put this application on. And I'll wait maybe an hour, and then I'll be able to sand it off. So I'll go ahead and do the rest of the sides, the other side off camera, and I'll come back after the pore filler's dried and show you what it looks like when I sand it off. So I've left this to dry, and looking at it right now, I could have squeegeed this off a little bit better, not left so much residue on here because it's just going to leave me more to sand off. I have a piece of 220 grit sandpaper, and I'll just sand this back down to the wood. So this will take a little while, so I'll go off camera and do some sanding and then come back as I get closer to the wood. So I have this pretty well sanded down in the middle. I got a little bit more to go on the back, and this is kind of interesting the way this came out. You see this darker spot? I just wiped that with denatured alcohol because get this close. I don't know if you can see it or not in the picture, but where the pores are filled, it's a little bit lighter than the walnut. But when I wiped it over with denatured alcohol to see what it would look like when I get a finish on it, it didn't look light at all. So that's just something that looks that way when it's dry, but I think once the finish is on, it won't show. And actually the person that I got this from tinted his drywall compound with black pigment, which would probably be good, and it would show up even less. You just get more black looking flecks in the background. But I think once the true oil goes on here, this filler is going to become somewhat transparent, and it won't show. So I'll do a little more sanding. I've added just a sponge sanding block here so I keep everything level so I get close to the surface. Turn my camera here so I can see it. So you can see all the lighter brown, got the speckles in there, are where the pore filler is filled in on the back. There you can see there. So those are all the pores that were open that got filled in. So back away, you can't see it as much. So I'll continue to finish up this back, and I'll sand the sides, and I'll come back and do a second application of the pore filler. So I've got this sanded down as far as I wanted to do with the 220, and it actually did fill in a lot of pores. You can see the lighter background there. Put one more coating of filler on it. And this one I thinned down a little bit. You can see it's just add a little water to it. So it's not quite as thick. I'll be able to put a thinner layer on. So I'm going to put a thinner layer on, and I just got a spatula here that I'm going to use to squeegee it off so I don't have so much to remove. It's going on a lot easier than the last. So I guess it was worth a little extra time and trouble to thin it down. There we go. So yeah, I would recommend thinning it down. It's working a lot better. That's pretty good. I'll go ahead and do the sides off camera and let that dry and come back when I'm ready to sand. So the second application of the pore filler is dried. Now I have a piece of 320 grit sandpaper. I've started sanding the upper part of the back. So I'll just go ahead and sand this down. back's getting really close to where I want to be. You can see a close up here of all the pores that have been filled in. Of course, as you back out, you really can't see it. And as I said, once I put the true oil on there and start putting the finish on, those will kind of become invisible. So I still have just a light amount of drywall compound on the surface there that I need to get off. So I'll go off camera, finish the back and sand the sides, and come back to apply the true oil.